The grass was already half cut, the sun hanging heavy above Elliot's back as he leaned on the electric mower. Sweat slid down his temple, salty and persistent, and the sharp hum of summer wrapped around his suburban backyard like a second skin. He paused, thumb hovering over the stop switch, and stared at nothing in particular, just the wooden fence that marked the end of his world. It wasn't supposed to feel this lonely. Tyler hadn't come home last night. Again. Work, he'd texted. Elliot hadn't bothered replying. What was there to say? I miss you. Do you still care? The words clung to his throat but never made it to the screen. He'd stopped needing explanations. Lately, Tyler's silences spoke loud enough. He sighed, stepped back toward the toolbox, and knelt beside it. As he reached for the drill, the metal cool in contrast to the heat blanketing his skin, something loosened in him, a weird burst of mischief, maybe boredom. He flipped the drill in his hand and held it upright between his thighs, squeezing the trigger with a sheepish chuckle. Juvenile, sure. But it felt oddly good to laugh. The chuckle turned into a grin, and he kept going. Slow at first, then faster, pretending. Alone, it was just a dumb joke. Alone, everything was harmless. Then he felt it. Eyes. He turned toward the fence. Malik stood there, still and tall, a glass of something cold in one hand and a faint smirk on his face. Elliot froze, caught mid-motion, drill still buzzing like a guilty conscience. His stomach flipped. I see your tools working just fine, Malik said, not laughing, but amused all the same. Blood flooded Elliot's face. Oh my God. Sorry, I didn't know anyone was... Malik held up a hand, his eyes glinting in the light. Relax, neighbor. Not the strangest thing I've seen this week. Elliot tried to laugh it off, setting the drill down quickly and brushing his hands on his shorts, even though they were clean. Just goofing around. Long day. I get it. Malik sipped from his glass. Hot out here. Yeah. There was silence, but not an awkward one. Elliot glanced up again, and this time Malik wasn't smirking. He was just looking. Really looking. Not in a lewd way, but direct, patient, like he was waiting for Elliot to say something honest. I should get back to it, Elliot mumbled, his voice suddenly hoarse. Malik nodded and turned, the moment ending just as quietly as it had begun. The fence reclaimed its role as boundary. Inside, the air conditioning blasted against Elliot's damp skin, but it didn't do much to cool. The memory of Malik's gaze. It had lasted maybe 6 seconds, but those seconds replayed themselves with uncomfortable precision. He couldn't remember the last time someone had looked at him that directly. Tyler certainly didn't. Tyler looked at his phone, at his laptop, at his reflection, but rarely lately at Elliot. Later that evening, Tyler came through the door like someone who had been expected somewhere else. His cologne hit first, familiar, sharp, and then the sound of his bag hitting the counter. You're late, Elliot said quietly. Yeah, traffic. You always say that. Tyler didn't answer. He didn't even look up. Elliot waited, then tried again. Want me to warm something up? Already ate. Of course you did, Elliot thought, but he didn't say it. Tyler disappeared into the bedroom without another word. The door clicked shut with a quiet finality that seemed to echo more than it should have. Elliot stood in the kitchen, fingers tightening around the sink's edge. There was a dull throb behind his eyes. He wasn't angry, not really, not even hurt anymore. Just numb, as if someone had been draining him drop while he hadn't been looking. His phone buzzed on the counter. He reached for it, hoping, stupidly, that it was Tyler. It wasn't. Malik. Nice form today. Next time I'll show you how to handle a real one. Elliot stared at the message, his heart hiccuping in his chest. It was probably a joke. Probably, but something about the way it was phrased. Playful, yes, but layered. He didn't respond. Not yet. but his fingers hovered over the screen longer than necessary. Then he looked at the fence outside the window. And for the first time in weeks, Elliot smiled. The next day, Elliot told himself it was just neighborly courtesy. Nothing more. When Malik had texted him, casually asking if he could help with some heavy lifting in the garage, Elliot had hesitated. Then he'd said yes, too quickly. Now he stood outside Malik's door, trying not to sweat more than the heat required. Malik opened it almost immediately, as if he'd been waiting. He wore a plain black tank top, arms solid and relaxed, skin glowing like polished mahogany in the sunlight. He smiled without showing all his teeth. "Appreciate you coming by," Malik said, stepping aside. "Didn't mean to spook you yesterday." Elliot chuckled, stepping into the garage. "You didn't. I just wasn't expecting company." The space was clean and well organized. Tools hung from pegboards, a workbench lined one wall, and there was a soft hum of a fan spinning lazily overhead. A subtle scent of sawdust and something citrus hung in the air. It felt masculine but lived in, like a place that invited quiet, not noise. Malik handed him a water bottle. Their fingers brushed. Elliot pretended not to notice how his pulse jumped. "I just need help holding this panel while I bolt it in," Malik said, pointing to a wooden frame near the back. "Shouldn't take more than a few minutes." "Cool," Elliot replied, already moving into position. They worked side by side, close. Occasionally, Malik would guide Elliot's hands, murmuring directions in that low, grounded voice. Elliot found himself listening more to the rhythm than the words. There was something calming about Malik's presence, something that softened the tension Elliot hadn't even realized he carried in his shoulders. "Your boyfriend ever help with stuff like this?" Malik asked, not looking up. Elliot blinked. "No, he's more of a digital guy, not really the hands-on type." Malik smirked faintly. "Figures. You seem like someone who needs real things, not just screen talk." Elliot didn't answer right away. Instead, he focused on the way Malik's forearm flexed as he tightened the bolt. The silence between them wasn't awkward. It was weighty. Like something unsaid was beginning to fill the air. After a pause, Elliot murmured, "He hasn't really been around lately." Malik set the wrench down. "I noticed." That surprised Elliot. "You did?" "I see things," Malik said, simply. He looked at Elliot then, really looked. "You're quieter these days. You used to wave, smile. Now you move like you're afraid to disturb something." Elliot exhaled, the air suddenly thick. "I didn't think anyone noticed." "I do," Malik said. The words weren't loud or dramatic, but they hit like thunder. Elliot felt the burn rise in his throat. He turned away under the pretense of organizing the screws on the work table. "I'm sorry," Elliot said after a moment. "That's probably more than you needed to hear." Malik stepped closer, just behind him. "Don't apologize for being real." Their shoulders nearly touched. Elliot's skin buzzed with awareness. The air between them changed. Denser, slower. Malik's voice came softer now, like gravel wrapped in velvet. "You deserve to be looked at like you matter," Malik said. Elliot swallowed. "I haven't felt that in a long time." Malik reached around him, slow, not forceful, and adjusted Elliot's grip on a clamp. His hand covered Elliot's for a second too long. "Like this," he murmured. Elliot's breath hitched. He turned slightly, eyes rising to meet Malik's. They were inches apart now, and neither moved. There was no sound but the soft spin of the overhead fan and the too loud thump of Elliot's heartbeat in his ears. For a second, Elliot leaned in, just a little. Then he caught himself. "I should go," he whispered, stepping back, pulse wild and chest tight. Thanks for the water." Malik didn't stop him. He just nodded once, calm and unreadable. "Anytime." Elliot left the garage quickly, stepping into the sunlight as if it could erase what had almost happened. But it didn't. The memory followed him. Malik's eyes, the warmth of his hand, the simple power of being seen. Later that night, Tyler was on the couch, texting with a grin Elliot hadn't seen directed at him in months. Curious, maybe foolish, Elliot waited until Tyler went to shower, then picked up the phone left face down. The messages weren't work-related. They were flirty, personal, intimate. Elliot stood there, staring at words not meant for him. His mouth went dry. This wasn't suspicion anymore. It was confirmation. Tyler was cheating. Unapologetically. He set the phone down very gently. Then, without knowing why, Elliot walked to the window and looked toward the fence. Malik's light was on. Elliot didn't sleep that night. The weight of Tyler's betrayal pressed against his chest like a brick. He lay on his side, staring at the glow from Tyler's phone screen while the shower ran behind the bathroom door. Every text echoed in his head. Every flirty emoji felt like a slap. He waited. Waited for Tyler to come back to bed, say something, anything. But Tyler just climbed in beside him and turned away, like Elliot was a piece of furniture. Familiar. Ignored. The silence between them was no longer empty. It was loud. Elliot slipped out of bed an hour later, barefoot and numb, adrenaline and heartache twined in his gut. He didn't plan it. There was no dramatic storming out or slamming doors. Just the quiet pull of his hoodie over his head and the key in his hand before he knew where he was going. He walked down the dark sidewalk, the air warm and still. The soft glow from Malik's front porch washed over the steps like it had been waiting for him. He didn't knock. He didn't have to. The door opened before he reached it. Malik stood there, wearing only sweatpants, the dim hallway light casting golden shadows across his bare chest. He looked surprised for only a second, then stepped aside. Elliot entered, slowly, hesitating at the threshold as if crossing into someone else's life. Maybe he was. "I didn't know where else to go," Elliot whispered, voice cracking on the edge of his breath. "You don't have to explain," Malik said gently, closing the door behind them. "You're here. That's enough." The words melted something inside Elliot. They stood in the stillness of the entryway, eyes locked. Elliot's heart was a stammering mess, his body too aware of the distance and the heat between them. He wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly, Malik's hand was on his cheek, warm and grounding, and Elliot leaned into it like a man who'd been starving for touch. The kiss was slow, not rushed, not frantic. It unfolded like a secret Elliot had been keeping from himself. Malik kissed him with a quiet certainty, like he knew Elliot needed tenderness more than lust. And Elliot kissed back like he was finally breathing again. Malik didn't say a word. As they moved down the hallway, his hand in Elliot's, leading him without pulling, every step felt sacred, like Elliot was shedding 1,000 moments of being unseen. In the bedroom, they undressed without urgency, fingertips mapping unfamiliar skin with reverence. There was nothing hurried, no hard edges, just warmth, rhythm, breath. Elliot had expected his body to shake, but it didn't. Not in the way he feared. It shook with relief, with something that felt dangerously close to peace. When it was over, they lay tangled beneath the sheets. The silence between them wasn't the kind Elliot had known with Tyler. This one was alive, restful, full of unspoken truth. Malik stroked his fingers down Elliot's back, slow and reassuring. "I don't usually do this," Elliot said softly, face buried against Malik's shoulder. "I know," Malik replied. "I wasn't waiting for the moment. I was waiting for you to be ready." Elliot looked up. "You could have said something. All those weeks. All the signs. I didn't want to be the next person who took something from you. I wanted you to choose this." "I did," Elliot said. "I am." The words felt terrifying and real all at once. The next morning, sunlight spilled across Malik's room, gentle and unashamed. Elliot stirred, blinking against the glow, his limbs warm and weighted by sleep and something deeper. He turned to find Malik already awake, watching him with quiet curiosity. "You stayed," Malik said. "I didn't want to go back," Elliot answered. Malik nodded. "Then don't. Not unless it's what you want." Elliot didn't respond. Right away. He sat up, the sheet slipping down his chest, and looked toward the window. Outside, the neighborhood looked the same. The world hadn't changed, but he had. He turned back to Malik, a slow smile growing beneath tired eyes. "This doesn't feel like a mistake." "It isn't," Malik said. Later, as Elliot dressed and stepped out into the soft morning, he knew it wouldn't be easy. There would be questions, guilt, conversations he wasn't ready for. But he also knew this. What had happened last night wasn't betrayal. It was the answer to one. And maybe, just maybe, it was the beginning of something honest.